The French anti-drug activist whose brother was murdered by gangs says he will not stay silent. 22-year-old Amine Kessaci's younger brother Mehdi last week was shot dead in Marseille. France is currently grappling with an alarming rise in drug-related violence, particularly in Marseille and Grenoble. President Emmanuel Macron held a meeting with cabinet ministers at the Élysée Palace on Tuesday. Interior Minister Laurent Nunez and Justice Minister Gérald Darmanin will head to Marseille on Thursday to meet with magistrates and police. Here are reactions from some Marseille residents to the latest violence.
This is yet another victim, and there will be more. So it's a very sad day for the city where I was born and which I love. And I suppose that all the people from Marseille who are here think the same thing as me. Only the problem is we are terrorised. Until when? I don't know.
I'm devastated and at the same time distraught. Things like this happen almost every day. Innocent people dying, all because of drug traffickers. All these things that shouldn't be happening in France right now.
And I'm joined once again by our international affairs editor, Philip Turle. Philip, how bad is the drug violence situation in France at the moment?
It's getting worse gradually. It's gone up. You can see that from the reaction from those two ladies in Marseille. I think it's now also becoming an election issue. That is why we've seen this sudden movement within the government to send ministers down there. Emmanuel Macron himself is going to Marseille next month. There have been talks taking place in Paris also to discuss the situation. This has all come to a head in the last few days with the killing of Mehdi Kessaci. Mehdi Kessaci is the younger brother of Amine Kessaci, whose elder brother was already killed in a drugs rift in 2020. That is why Amine Kessaci joined the Green Party and became an anti-drugs militant, and his younger brother has now been assassinated. The younger brother having nothing to do with the drugs trade. This has marked a departure in France towards a much more sinister way of dealing with people who are trying to intervene in the drug business or fighting against the drug business, because before it was those who directly intervened who were targets, not members of their family. Now we see members of the family of those who are militing against the drug business who are being targeted, and that is something that we haven't seen in France before. So there are two areas where drugs are prevalent. One of them is Marseille, which is where those two women were talking, but also in Grenoble in southeastern France, which is seen as also a very important drug centre. It's now being called the Chicago of the Alps, if you like, because many drug barons who were previously in Lyon have shifted to Grenoble. That's close to Italy, and they find it easier to move around and also to command the organisation, be in charge of the organisation of how the drug situation is being organised in France. So accusations against the leadership of France that they haven't paid enough attention to the increase in drug trafficking in this country, and maybe they should pay a little bit less attention, or at least as much attention, to drugs as they have been paying to terrorism across France.
Now, France's former Interior Minister Bruno Retailleau warned that France was on its way to becoming a drug hub in Europe comparable to Mexico. Is this true?
Well, Bruno Retailleau was the Interior Minister up until September. He was more known to be on the right side of Emmanuel Macron's Renaissance movement. But there have been certainly increases in the way that the drug barons are operating here in France, and the methods they're using are similar to those in Mexico. This is not as bad in France as the situation in Mexico, that has to be underlined, but there is increased intimidation, ultra-violent shootings and collateral victims, as we've seen in the case of Mehdi Kessaci in the last few days. Members of the family have nothing to do with the drugs trade who are being targeted as a way of shutting up those who are trying to aim their methods at the drug barons to stop them from peddling drugs in France. So that is something new, and there is now growing pressure on the French government to do something about it. The French government says it's doing as much as it can, but I think there's definitely a feeling in this country that they should be doing a lot more.
But what can the government ultimately do?
Okay, well, at the moment, 1.8 million euros a year, 1.8 billion euros a year is devoted to the fight against drug trafficking in France. 6% of police and gendarmes are on a full-time basis investigating the drug business and trying to arrest those involved, be they drug peddlers or drug barons. There is a bureau called the OFAST Bureau, which is the anti-drugs office, which has increased its seizure of cocaine 130% more seized in the last year, 120% more of synthetic drugs seized in the past 5 years. So there has been an increase in the amount of drugs that are being seized, but more drugs are coming into the country. And half of the number of drug selling points have been shut down, but there are still, in some very key areas of the country, notably in the northern suburbs of Marseille, many of those drug areas where they are behaving in a cat and mouse way towards the authorities. As I said, Emmanuel Macron is to travel to Marseille next month. He's going to announce the unveiling of a new organisation called the PNACO, which is a National Prosecutor's Office Against Organised Crime. That will include 17 magistrates and specialised officers, and the creation of 2 more high security prisons which are due to open in France next year to increase the number of inmates to 500, basically drug pushers, drug barons, those who are considered the most dangerous, up from 140 today. That's what the organisation, the government is saying it's organising for the next few months. But we are face to face with a shifting in the way that the criminality is organised in this country. That's to say that many of the drug barons are no longer in France, so it's very difficult for them to be arrested. They're operating from other countries, even overseas, controlling what's going on in here. They are using much younger people to peddle these drugs, many of them 15 or under, because they know they can't be arrested by the authorities because they're too young. That has opened a big debate in Europe about how young should children be before they can be arrested for drug peddling. In Sweden now there is a debate on arresting those who are under 13. In Ireland you can be arrested from the age of 10 for murder or rape or corruption. In France that is not the case yet, but I think that is going to be the next debate in the National Assembly about whether or not it should be younger people should be arrested for being involved in drug peddling. Just the other day a 13-year-old was shot and seriously injured in France just close to a drug peddling centre. That has opened, I think, another debate in this country about whether or not more should be taken to clamp down on extra young people who are being used and who can't be arrested by the police and the gendarmerie.
Thank you very much for that, Philip Turle.